All right, so in Touche's system, he has, as we mentioned, you have these 4 different guards of prime, seconde, tierce, and quarte. He doesn't use tierce at all for any attacks. He says it doesn't deflect the opponent's blade very well, so he doesn't like using it. It's just basically on guard, because you can make different parries a little bit easier from this position for inside and outside. So we're gonna look at the other guards for our attacks. He uses quarte or fourth to protect and defend himself against the high inside line. He'll use seconde for the high outside line and sometimes low outside line. And he'll use prime also for the low outside line, basically lunging like underneath our opponent's blade and stuff like that. So we're gonna start with some very simple attacks, get people kind of warmed up and used to how attacking it like this works. And then we'll get into like some more complex, interesting combos and stuff like that. So we're going to start off, also pedagogically, I'm going to use a lot of like classical and modern fencing terms to make the language a little bit easier. If I use a term that you don't know, let me know. I'm going to try to explain everything as best I can, but I know we all have different backgrounds, different systems, different language and stuff. So we need to be communicating as best we can. So if I say something doesn't make sense to you, just please let me know. I'll do my best to make it make sense and stuff. So we're going to do some simple attacks with a straight thrust. So basically, as the coach, I'm going to create an invitation. He's going to strike the opening that I give him. We're going to practice this with both the lunge and the passing lunge, since Touche likes both. Just realize the passing lunge strikes further away. So if you're not used to the passing lunge, I'd rather you be further away and miss than too close and blow your training partner up, and then dial in the distance as you need to. So this first drill, I'm going to invite here in second. I'm going to invite second with the sword high. He's just going to strike me in the chest in fourth. Touche does a lot of attacks to the chest here. His system is both for foil and for small sword, but almost all his plates show foil. So all the attacks are to the chest because they didn't have fencing masks. So just for the sake of trying to be like Touche in the book here, try to aim for the like inside, just a couple of inches from the chest. That's a good target here. Right. So first drill. We're going to start off in the lunge distance. I'm just going to open up here in a high second. And he's going to do a nice lunge in fourth. If you can get the opposition to your inside, yeah. So if I try to come back, he's got his hilt nice and protected where I can't get him. Good, recover. Again, I can open on up. He can do his attack. Boom. Good. If he's a little bit further away, he can do his passing lunge. Again, I'm going to open up here in second. Yeah.
Not used to the passing.
I know, right? It's weird. Boom. Nice. Good. Try again. I would open up and he'll go high. Good. And he's still trying to get opposition to his inside line here. So if I try to bring my sword back online, I can get a cheap shot into his face and stuff and get him injured. So we're going to start off right there with as a basic drill. If you and your partner are more experienced and you want something a little bit more interesting, you can add mobility to this drill. So to demo this, we'll be in your lunge distance here. He's just going to follow the leader, right, back and forth. When I open on up, he'll do his lunge. Or if we're further away, again, we can follow the leader, boom, boom, boom. And he can do his attacks and stuff, right? So do that if you want something more interesting. So like, as people might have noticed, trying to attack on that pass can be kind of tricky. So one of the things I do when I'm practicing passing lunges at home is I go really slow, right? I'll do my extension nice and slow, because I want as much body control as I can and really focus on a nice stable landing. And then how comfortable can I feel in this posture? Because any of us can just kind of throw ourselves at our opponent and land the shot. But if you don't have the control to be able to land safely, you're gonna hurt yourself, you're gonna hurt your partner, you're gonna break blades. You don't want to replace braids and stuff. So before you can really add in the explosiveness of those passing lunges, being able to just do it nice and slow, where I'm kind of like focused on body control and body mechanics, is super useful, and really focusing on nice open hips so that this toe is kind of pointing outward. So if I'm finishing here as a righty, my toe is pointing towards like 10 o'clock, right? If you're a little bit, like I started off here, and this is kind of opened up my hips just practicing these. So if you have tight hips, also practicing opposite direction is good too, just to kind of like get nice wide open hips and stuff. But those passing lunges can be a little tricky and stuff. Yeah, so you could even recover forward, you can do redoubles, remises, all these other kind of cool stuff and stuff, yeah. Or from the lunge, I can go from the lunge into a pass and stuff too. So there's a whole bunch of fun ways we can use that. Right, our next attack is going to be second high over the sword. So this is still very rapier-esque, in which we're using the true edge. So the true edge is the side of the sword that is your knuckles are on. You get nice deflection and can lock your opponent out pretty easily. A little bit easier with the true edge compared to the false edge, which gets us better crossing. So I can hook around my opponent's blade better with the false edge, but the true edge gets me more protection here. So this is still a very rapier-esque in terms of the approach. We don't really have, he has basically fourth a cart over the arm, but he's really focusing more on second here. So we're still going to do some straight thrusts. So I'm going to borrow you again. So in this case, I'm going to now invite in fourth across my body here, protecting the inside line. So I expose my outside line so he can get the attack. And again, he brings his sword over for the strike. Boom. So if I try to bring my sword back online, he's got hilt in the way, protecting his head here. Good. If you want to try one with the passing lunge?
I can try.
Yeah, I can try. Let's try it. So here, I open up, he extends. Boom. Nice. Good. So these ones are gonna be palm down. If you got the epee blades and like it feels weird to strike palm down, I'm fine with you just doing everything palm up and stuff as well. Again, like do whatever you can based on like the weapon and what your weapon can do and what your body can do. But Touche really likes this palm down, true edge opposition, second over the sword. Sound good? All right. So if you looked at striking the high inside line, if we looked at striking the high outside line, now we're going to look at the strike in first or prime. This is an attack under the sword. Sometimes we can do an attack low with second, but really he's using first to get super low here. This can be done regardless if your opponent sword is in fourth or second. For the French at this point, the low line is the low line. They do kind of like talk about low inside, low outside, but really, unless the sword's intersecting the lines, there's really no inside or outside at that point. It's just low. You're gonna try to disappear underneath the horizon as best you can on this one. I know you can get this low, so I'm gonna keep grabbing you for this one. Yeah, so you get basically, I'm gonna give you an invitation, just trying to get as low as you can. Okay. You're trying to get underneath your hilt here. So the head is underneath the hilt as best you can. Hand is in first, so knuckles to the sky, true edge to the sky here.
Try not to put my hand down to soda, because I'm so used to doing that.
Yeah, he shows these lunges. Sometimes his arm's back here, sometimes he shows them. It's not quite on the ground, okay. But sometimes his hand's in different spots on these, so okay. It's kind of like a passata soda, yeah. He doesn't quite show the hand quite on the ground, but it is definitely sometimes on the side, sometimes behind. So use that offhand for your balance as best you can. If you're gonna do the traditional passata soda, don't slam your hand into the bricks. You're gonna screw your wrist up. Use that for like keeping balance and not dropping hard into this. This is still more of a lunge forward and less of a retreat or reverse lunge in the way we're doing this one. So I'm just going to give him this high second here. Boom. Yeah, nice underneath. So again, if I try to bring my sword back over, he's nice and protected. Yeah, good. Cover. Boom. Yeah, nice. Good. Try this with the passing lunge. Do you think you do it?
Oh,
you want to try it?
I can try.
Let's try it. Let's try it. This one's going to be a little bit tough here. So I'm up here. Boom. Oh. Nice. That's pretty good. Yeah, good. I'll make you only do the one.
Thank you.
So that passing lunge and prime, that's really tough. But try this more on the lunge. If you're feeling pretty good and limber, you can try it with the passing lunge. But the key here for the coach is I need to keep my sword high. If my sword is way down here, he's going to have a hell of a time trying to void or lunge underneath my sword. So we want to keep everything's basically at shoulder chest height, right? This is my max reach, is when it's shoulder chest height. The lower or high I bring my sword, I lose reach. He's trying to maximize reach here. So it's just also going to make it a little bit easier for my training partner to void underneath or lunge underneath my hilt here. So give the your question?
And for all these lunges, we are hip hinging forward on that?
Yeah. So if I'm on guard, I'm going to kind of hinge, and I'm going to hinge as forward as I can on this. Fourth is more upright. Second and first gets more progressively hinged forward. This is also just to make it easy to get underneath my hilt. If I'm more upright, it's harder for me to get underneath my hilt, so it's part of that. But do what you can. Good question, thank you. Cool, give those a try. All right, now we're going to look at finding, gaining, and engaging. These are somewhat similar to the terms how they're used in like Italian rapier, but also a little bit different. So for the Italian rapier fighters, some of the stuff would be like, yes, I got this. And then sometimes the terminology is just a smidge different and stuff. So we're gonna start out with finding, which is basically just getting that early engagement so I have an idea of where my opponent's sword is so I can approach safely. The last thing I want is, if we're fighting each other here, is if we're on guard, I create this giant invitation, I step on forward, he's just gonna hit me, right? Right? How many people have been like one-shotted while they step on into measure, right? It's because I don't have opposition of his blade, I don't know where his sword is, he can just hit me while I'm taking that step forward. So I wanna make sure I'm finding his blade so I know where it is. If you get a chance to look down the barrel of a sharp sword, sharp small sword or rapier, when it's profile, the blade just disappears, right? You can see these things because we got little rubber tips on, or we got a little bit of a wider profile for safety and stuff. But when we got that nice distilled taper into a sharp point, if that sword is pretty much parallel to the ground, all you see is the hilts and maybe a little flash of silver here and there. You can see a little bit more of the sword when it's angled and like more of like this Caprifero, more like maybe a more classical kind of foil kind of stance. But if that sword is parallel to the ground, aimed at your eyes, it can be very difficult to see where it is. So you literally want to find the sword so you know where it is in space. So we're going to do finding. Finding is done from far away. It's as soon as our blades can kind of start to cross each other, that's when finding's happening. We're going to find about a foot span or a palmo roughly down from the point of our opponent's blade here. We're not crossing over the weapon like we would with the Italians quite yet. We're just getting that initial engagement. So you pop on in here. Take one step. So if I find his blade from out of measure, you can say right there, I approach. I'm just getting that initial crossing, just so I have an idea where it is. I can do that finding if I'm getting ready to hit him. If I want to get closer, I want to make sure I have some kind of idea where his weapon is. I can also use this to kind of get information about him. How does he react when I make blade contact? Does he chill? Does he push? Does he disengage? So I can kind of do some probing actions or kind of suss him out to get an idea of what he likes to do as a fighter to figure out what I need to do to counter him. So the first, yeah, question. Yeah, so from right here, I can see where his blade, his hilt is. So I have an idea roughly where the weapon is. So as I step on forward, I'm kind of just looking for that light contact. So that's kind of an idea of where it is. I'm not pushing super hard quite yet, but I'm just making sure I have an idea of where it is in space. So having like that sentiment to fur, right? That feeling of iron is really useful here for knowing where it is and stuff. Fortunately, we have big blue buttons or red buttons to make things a little bit easier for seeing. But yeah, if it was sharp, that can be a little bit trickier and stuff. Cool. All right. So this first drill, student is going to approach. He's going to get his finding of my weapon here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push hard on it. I'm going to push hard and not do any footwork. He's going to disengage, and he can either do two things. He can either do his passing lunge, boom, nice, or he can do an advanced lunge or a gaining step into a lunge, depending on what he thinks he's better at and what he wants to do and what the distance kind of calls for, right? Because we're really far away here. I push, boom, nice. He's got that nice engagement. He's got nice opposition, so I'm not able to get a cheap afterblow on him. Steps in and finds, push, boom, nice, good. So we can do that on the inside line. We can do that also on the opposite of the outside line. We steps in, he gets that finding. I push, he disengages, he strikes in fourth. Good, make sure he's got the hilt in the way so I can't get him in the head. Boom, and strike, good. And also in either one of these, he can also go underneath and do that strike of first, right? So he can go high in fourth or high in second. Or if he wants to be a little extra spicy, he can try for that like low void lunge in preem. We'll try one of those. That one's gonna be optional based on what you feel like you can do in this moment here. So again, if he gets that finding, if I push, he can kind of just strike underneath. If I try to come back down, he's got some steel in the way. So practice these on the high inside and the high outside line. And if you want to try some preem, you can as well. 1 second, yeah. So he's going to find on the inside. I push across of it, so he strikes in the opposite line. And same thing on the opposite here. Yeah.
Do you do the finding in tips?
Yeah, oh, good question. Yeah, so when he does his finding, he's basically in between tierce and whatever guard he's closest to. So if he wants to be on the inside, he's in between third and fourth. So my hand is kind of like not palm up, not palm to the inside, but like in between, canted a little bit. So that's if I'm finding here, I'm on the inside. If I'm finding on the outside, my hand's in between third and second. Yeah, so kind of at an angle in third and second, kind of at an angle, palm up, third and fourth. He doesn't want to be perfectly in fourth or a second. He wants that little bit of a canter here. Yeah. If you just stay in third, that's also fine. Engagement, it matters more. But if you start turning the hand, it makes things a little bit easier and stuff. So the French system came from the early Italian systems and stuff. So we just see a lot of bleed over from that at this point. All right. We're going to move on to our next little action. We're going to do 1 or 2 more ideas with finding before we move over to engagements and in gaining. I'm going to borrow Wendy for this one. I have you right across right here. So we're still in this like really far wide measure here. Wendy's going to step on in and find my blade. I'm going to push, but now I'm going to push and take a step on forward. Because if you don't do anything, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get engagement so then I can throw my attack, right? That's as my motivation as the coach. That's what I'm thinking about trying to do. But as I do this, this is a tempo where Wendy can hit me with a disengagement and a lunge. So I'm here, I push, boom, right? And she's got nice opposition again, making sure that I can't get her with a late hit to her head or to her body. She's got that steel in the way. So the difference between this action and the previous action is I was stationary. So when I pushed, she had to do this big passing lunge to hit me, or a gaining lunge, yeah, that can be a big tempo. The gaining on the lunge a little bit faster. That passing lunge a little bit slower. So there might be other things she might want to do instead, which maybe just disengage and engage on the opposite line. But if I step on forward, especially if I do this big step, this big push, this is a great opportunity for her just to disengage and hit me on the opposite line. Anytime we can hit our opponent while they're stepping forward to us is a really good opportunity, because I can't retreat until that back foot lands, right? Which is why I like tiny little footwork, so I can run away. If I take this big step at Wendy, she's got to make me pay before I can run away from her and stuff. So how we'll do this drill, I'm going to show a few different levels depending on what level of difficulty or challenge that you're looking for. The simplest version is she steps in and finds. I push with a step forward and she will just disengage with a lunge. Good opposition, good. That's our base level here. Level 2 is I can stop retreating away as the coach if she's a little bit slow on her disengagement, right? So if I think she's not being very quick and explosive on her attack, I can run away. So I'm going to ask you to be slow for this demo. So you step in and find. So now when she attacks, I can kind of take a step on back. Well, if you did it, yeah, you did a little cheat with the passing lunge. But if you were to lunge, right? If she were to lunge, she would come up a little bit shorter as I take that retreating step on back. There's not a lot of room here for mobility. You can try if you have a little bit of space. The mobility version, as a coach, I'm keeping my sword down low, so she's just gonna keep distance with me. Boom, and when I step on up, she'll find, and then we go through that whole step, that whole sequence. And again, I can still run away if I think she's a little bit slow on her attack and stuff. Make sense? Cool. Do this on the high inside and high outside line. If you want to, you can try throwing in those low attacks in preem if you want to do some low line lunges. But be smart, we have a whole day and those can be kind of tough on the groin and stuff. But give that a go. Cool. All right, so now we're going to talk about engagement. So engagement's similar to finding, but now I'm going to get a mechanical advantage of strong on weak. I'm a little bit closer to my opponent. So now I'm going to be in lunge distance and not necessarily advanced lunge or passing lunge distance for this one. We're going to look at a few different cues, and then we'll do an option drill after, but we'll kind of build up to this one. You mind if I borrow you and me? So first I'm going to talk about this engagement here. So if you get on guard, so I get the finding where I'm just kind of like touching weapons here. When I get the engagement, I'm going to get a little bit more strong on weak, and I'm crossing my point a little bit over her weapon. This is very Italian rapier-esque. So my hand is in between third and fourth, right? I'm not all the way in fourth. I'm not in third. I'm like in between the two. I have strong on weak because these swords are levers. If she tries pushing against my sword here, she can do two hands, right? Yeah, hold so do it again. Yep, do it. My pinky here is stronger than her two hands, right? Because levers are pretty cool like that. So I want to make sure I get strong on weak for that. Especially if Amy's stronger than me, I want to make sure that I'm using geometry and physics as best I can to help me out here. So like middle school, high school math class now coming into play here. So when I engage here on the inside line, if we're righty to righty, my sword is aimed just outside her left shoulder. Like this little angel and devil, I'm trying to scare them away. If I am on her outside line, my hand is in between second and third, and I'm aiming just outside her left shoulder. Right, so she keeps her sword kind of flat. I'm kind of taking it and just pushing it just outside my body. So if she were to lunge right here, I've already pre-parried her. Or she would have to disengage, yeah. Right, I'm basically have to force her to do a bigger action that I can predict. Because if I can predict what she's going to do, I can be faster than her. So this particular action, first one we're going to do is she's going to step in, find and engage my blade, getting strong on weak. And I don't like this as her opponent. I'm just going to detach the blade by bringing it further away, and she's just going to finish with a lunge with opposition. She's not chasing my blade, right? If my sword's way out here, she doesn't want to go chasing it. She just needs to make sure her hilt is protecting her body. If I try to come back on up to hit her, she's got steel in the way to keep herself safe. So she's got strong on weak. I can even test. I open it up. She lunges, and I can even test her fighting here. She's got a nice lunge here in fourth. Good. Same thing here on the outside line. She got a good engagement. Yeah, nice. I open on up. I don't like it. She can just lunge with that nice opposition here in second over the sword. We're just going to do this real quick. Just do like 3 to 4 reps of these because they're very similar to what we did previously. But he explicitly calls out your opponent detaching the blade but not disengaging, so detach on the same line, which seems like a really weird thing for somebody to do, but I do run into fences that do that. So this is good practice for when they just give you that nice little opening invitation, doing that straight thrust to the body. Next action we're going to look at is an opponent that realizes from your engagement this isn't good. They're going to detach the blade, but they're just going to try to disengage to the opposite line, not as an attack, but just to try to find or engage your sword on the opposite line. So if I borrow Amy again, one step back for me, good. So Amy engages my blade. What I'm trying to do as the coach is I'm just trying to engage her on the opposite line, so now I have the strong on weak and the mechanical advantage. If she's on the ball, like she knows that I love to do this line change to try to engage on the opposite line. As I do this disengage, she can just close me off on the outside line and strike in second in that same tempo. Right, so there's another type of straight thrust. It's a straight thrust against a line change without any kind of offensive threat. So if we do this nice and smooth, she engages. As I disengage, she goes straight into the lunge. Yeah. Good. She engages. Boom. Straight into the lunge. Good. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. So she's not engaging, re-engaging, and then going. She's engaging. As soon as she sees the disengagement, her hand's turning to the opposite guard, so from fourth to second or second to fourth, and pulling that forward. So it's not sideways and then straight. It's a spiral motion or diagonal motion of the tip from one line to the other. If we look at this at the opposite line real quick. So she engages me here in second. Get a little bit, aim your tip over here. A little bit more. Yeah, there you go, nice and strong. As I disengage, she can close me off in fourth with a nice lunge. Yeah. And she can also do these attacks in first if she wanted to get underneath my sword. If she was feeling a little extra spicy with her attacks and stuff. Sound good? All right, give those a go. All right, we're gonna do a little bit of an option drill here, because I like option drill. This like block drilling is good for like fine-tuning mechanics and making sure everything is working nice in order. But in a fight, if I'm fighting Tim, he's not just gonna give me these clean actions all the time. I gotta read what he's doing and make decision-making on the fly. So this is where option drills come in handy for those who haven't done it. Basically, there's gonna be a setup. As the coach, I'll give one of like 3 different cues, and it'll be up to my student to pick the right answer for the problem that I'm presenting them. I'm going to borrow Amy for this one. So we're going to do this as a little bit of an option drill. She's going to be far away here. She's going to step in and engage my blade. If I push against it, she's going to do a disengagement with a lunge or a passing lunge, depending on the distance, whatever she needs to do. That's option 1. Option 2, as she steps in and engages, I just do that blade detachment on the same line. So she does a straight thrust, good. And option 3 is the action we just did, where as she engages my blade, I do a disengagement without an attack. So she just does a straight thrust on the opposite line. Boom. Right? So as the coach, I'm actually going to mix these up. I'm not just going to go in order. So if I'm doing this in real time with Amy, she engages. Good. Boom, right? And then like over time, at this point, I care about her making the right decision. If she's more experienced, if she takes too long making an answer, I might run away or do something else. But at this point, I care people doing the quote unquote right answer versus doing it fast at this point. If you want an extra spicier version, you can do this with mobility. Right, so my blade is down, she's keeping distance with me. Boom, boom, I put my blade up, she engages. Yeah, you got a little bit of a pause off this initial engagement to see what I do. Boom, boom, back and forth, she engages. Yeah, a counter disengage is another answer, right? So like if she does another answer that works, that's pretty fine too. Make sense? All right. Bring it on in. We're going to do defense for the last 10, 15 minutes here. So Touche talks about different types of parries. He has simple parries, which is basically just going across the body here from either second and fourth, fourth and second. He also has low parries and low engagements in second, which we haven't really covered at all. He talks about circular parries. He doesn't like circular parries for the most part because your opponent is a little bit ahead of you in the tempo, right? We don't have to put your mask on. We're just going to rotate. So if I have engagement over Amy and she disengages, if I try to do a circular parry, I'm basically following her. So she could draw a second circle around my circle, right? So she's always a little bit ahead of me in the game. So that's why he doesn't like simple parries. He talks about hand parries because, again, this is very close to the age of rapier where they had cloaks, bucklers, daggers, anything you can get in your offhand they would use. The problem with offhand parries is that it brings your left side or your offside shoulder more forward, which means you're a bigger target, and he wants you to be a smaller target. Also, even if you have a leather glove, you can get stabbed through it. You can get cuts through it if the person throws cuts hard enough. He has chapters on cutting with the small sword. Forget about the argument, can rapiers cut? We've moved on to now to can small swords cut, and the answer is apparently yes. If you go early enough back in time, he talks about cutting with the small sword and stuff like that. So he really likes the simple parries. That's what we're going to really focus on here. I'll borrow Amy again. So for this drill, Amy's going to engage my blade here in fourth. I'm going to, as the coach, attack by disengagement. She's just going to do a simple parry of second with the hilt low, hilt the tip high. A little bit, the arm nice and straight, but he likes these parries with pretty extended arms and not the more retracted arms. And then as I recover back, she's going to do a riposte, keeping the blade contact as best she can and gliding to my body. Good. Yeah, if she needs to lunge or passing lunge, whatever footwork she needs to do is fine with me. So again, she engages here in fourth. I attack, parries, and then she follows with a riposte. Good. Same thing can be done here in the opposite line. She engages in second. I attack, she parries in fourth, and then riposts. Yeah. So on this one of the parry fourth, we still want that crossing over the weapon like we did with the engagement. The arm's still pretty extended. You see some of these, like some of the parries and stuff, the opponent's blade, the measure is much closer than I would actually like people because I want people hurting each other or busting their blades. But some of these parries, like the opponent's blade is like well past them and stuff. Be a little bit further away than that. If you see the strikes in his book, this giant bends in the blades. Don't be quite that close and stuff. So try again. She's got my engagement second. I attack. She parries, and she extends for her riposte. So we're just riposting on the same line that we parried on. So a nice riposte direct. I don't care if you do it with the glide, which is where you keep the blade contact, so you get that like grindy noise, or if the blade's detached a little bit. Just make sure you have the sword in the way of where your opponent's blade is. As the coach, when I recover back, I'm keeping my sword relatively high. If I'm much taller than Amy, I'm not going to keep it so high that she can't access the high line, but I don't want to retract back or lower my tip where now like I might be able to get her in the belly and stuff. So try to keep it at roughly where their hilt height will be on their riposte and stuff for this training purpose of this drill. Sound good? Cool. Give that a go. All right, our last drill before lunch here is we're going to do a riposte by disengagement. So Touche actually doesn't say what to do with the riposte. He just says the riposte is after you parry. Peace. Right? He doesn't tell you how to riposte. Doesn't say you should do it with a glide, a disengagement, a flunk it hard. He doesn't tell you. Just like, no, you do a riposte. Like riposte, this is what it is. He just kind of defines it and moves on. So it gives a lot of room to kind of play around with people already kind of doing it. I saw some people doing like some flanquenades or transports on their parries depending on where their opponent or their partner's blade is, which is really cool. I like seeing people kind of experiment with what their partner's given them, not necessarily doing the book perfectly kind of stuff, right? You got to be able to read your opponent or your partner, which is kind of nice. The last one we're going to do is a riposte indirect or with a disengagement. So now as the coach, after I've been parried, I realize I'm in trouble. So I'm getting ready for that counter parry across on the same line that I got parried. And Amy will just use that tempo to bring her blade to the opposite side to hit me. So if we walk through this one. So Amy will engage here in fourth on the inside. I attack. She parries in second. As I recover back, I'm going to try to push on her blade to get ready for a counter parry. She will disengage to the opposite line and then strike. Still with good opposition to make sure that I can't hit her. Nice. One more time, nice and smooth. Engages, parries. Oh, yeah. So the key here is making sure that you got patient feet, so you disengage first and let that disengage pull your body forward. If you disengage, if you lunge too early, that happens where you got to like get this big disengage. It feels a little awkward. Happens. One more time. That was pretty close. Boom, boom, disengage, go. Yeah, nice, good. So try both lines here. We only have like 3 minutes. So I mean, I don't care if people go a little bit longer into the lunch, but you only have like 3 minutes before lunch. So use that info however you would like.